Hey guys, tonight we will slip quietly out of your room and into another time, as if you've just blinked and the whole world has shifted around you. In your mind, you're still in your own bed, listening to my voice, but you're also waking up somewhere else, on a straw-filled mattress in a dim little room that smells of smoke, hay, and cool morning air, while a rooster outside yells that dawn has arrived. In real life, you probably wouldn't last long in the actual Middle Ages. No vaccines, no coffee machine, no map app to ask, is this berry poisonous? But this version is the safe, sleepy one, where nothing truly bad happens and you always end up back in your own bed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like sharing, tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes again and really look at where you are. The mattress beneath you is only a big sack stuffed with straw, lumpy and rustling whenever you move. A thick wool blanket covers you, rough against your fingers, smelling of sheep and smoke. Your hand slides automatically across the bed, searching for your phone, and finds nothing but coarse fabric. No screen, no cable, no familiar weight hiding by your pillow. The room is small but calm. A little stone hearth holds a few fading coals, a blackened pot hanging over them, breathing out a faint, warm smell of grain. Whitewashed walls close you in on three sides. A narrow window lets in that shy strip of morning light. There is a bench, a stool, a plain wooden chest, and nothing that hums, beeps, or blinks. At the foot of the bed, someone has folded a linen shirt, woolen trousers, or a simple dress, and a dark cloak, as if they have done this for you every evening of your life. You sit up, and the straw sighs softly beneath you. The air is cold enough that your breath appears in a tiny cloud before it fades. Through the door you hear a bucket clink, footsteps on packed earth, a low voice, a single satisfied bark from a dog. You swing your legs to the floor, and your feet find hard-packed dirt covered in a thin layer of rushes. Out of habit, your hand searches along the wall for a light switch that doesn't exist, and you catch yourself and smile. Right. No electricity, just fire and sun and a rooster with ambition. On the stool, a wooden cup of water and a chunk of yesterday's bread wait for you. When you break the bread open, the crust cracks, and the inside smells warm and faintly sour. It's simple, chewy, and better than it looks. The cool water rinses away the last bits of sleep and leaves a steady, curious quiet in your chest. You dress in the linen and wool, pull the cloak over your shoulders, and lace the soft leather shoes that seem to accept your feet. When you feel as ready as a person can feel after unplanned medieval teleportation, you lift the wooden bar on the door. It rises with a dry little clack, and the door opens with a long, reluctant creak. A breath of cold air slides in, carrying the smells of damp earth, wood smoke, and something warm and yeasty from a nearby oven. You step out onto a narrow dirt path, and the world opens gently around you. Mist lies low over the ground, softening the edges of everything. Houses lean toward one another on either side of the path. Walls of timber and pale daub, roofs thick with thatch darkened by rain and years. Wisps of smoke curl from crooked chimneys. Chickens patrol the space between doorways, scratching and clucking. Behind a rough fence, a pair of goats watches you chew with great seriousness, as if trying to place your face. In the center of the open space, a stone well anchors the village, while a woman hauls up a bucket, and a boy hurries past with firewood, laughing when he almost drops it. A few villagers glance your way. No one gasps or points or crosses themselves. Instead, they look at you like a neighbor they have always known, curious but not surprised. One man gives you a short nod before turning back to his work. The woman at the well offers the faintest of smiles. Wrapped in your unfamiliar cloak, standing in the cool mist of a century that technically shouldn't remember your name, you feel something loosen inside you. Whatever strange road brought you here, this small medieval morning has already decided how to see you, not as an intruder, but as one of its own. You stand in the lane for a quiet moment, letting the chill air and the sounds of the village settle around you. No cars, no phones, just the cluck of chickens, the murmur of voices behind thin walls, a dog giving one sleepy bark, and then thinking better of it. From the low hill, a small bell rings, each note hanging in the mist like a soft reminder that morning has properly begun. You start walking. The cloak brushes your legs, your shoes sink a little into the damp earth. The houses on either side look as if they grew out of the ground. Dark beams cross over pale plaster, and thick thatch roofs curve gently, patched and repatched by careful hands. Doorways are low, windows are small, a few with wavy glass, others covered in oiled parchment that glows softly with firelight from within. Bundles of herbs hang from eaves, their scents drifting past you in faint green waves. At the stone well, the woman you saw earlier hauls up a bucket, the rope squeaking over the wood. She glances up and gives you that same easy smile. "There you are," she says, in words that somehow fall into place in your mind. "Sleep heavy on your eyes?" Her tone is warm, the sort of teasing reserved for someone who belongs here. "Just tired," you answer, because it's always true. She laughs, low and kind, and holds out the rope. "Then wake up your arms first. Pull." The bucket is heavier than it looks. You feel the weight of the water drag your shoulders down, feel your muscles complain, and then accept the work. When it reaches the top, she nods. "Good. The day won't grumble at you so much now." A boy of about 12 appears beside you, all elbows and quick movements. His hair sticks up, his tunic is crookedly laced. He snatches a wooden dipper, scoops water, drinks, then peers at you over the rim. "You had the strange dreams again?" he asks, like this is just one more normal thing you do. You give a small shrug. That seems to satisfy him. "If you wash quick, there's still porridge in the hall. If you don't, you get the burn bits." And just like that, he trots off. You follow the path he took. The lane curves between small yards. A pig snuffles in straw, a pair of goats watches you with suspicious wisdom, a woman sweeps her doorstep with a broom made of bundled twigs, raising small clouds of dust. Somewhere close by, someone splits logs, the steady thunk of the axe like a heartbeat under all the other sounds. At a long wooden trough, a woman is washing linen. She dunks a sheet into the water, then slaps it hard against a smooth stone, droplets flying. When she sees you, she grins sideways. "Late again," she says. "Keep this up and the saints will put your name on a list." She hands you a small bar of rough soap that smells like fat and thyme. "Face and hands. That will do for now." The water is so cold it almost stings. You splash it onto your skin, wipe away the sleep and the smoke, and feel your thoughts clear. No warm tap, no careful adjusting of temperature, just a quick bracing shock that does exactly what it's supposed to do. As you scrub, the girl keeps talking in an easy stream. She says, "Breakfast in the hall. Porridge, bread, maybe stew if they didn't finish it. Some people cross themselves, some just dig in. God knows who's grateful, whether they wave their hands about it or not."
You ask where people go to pray, and she nods toward the hill. There's the chapel, she says. The priest likes his bells, but most of us talk to God while we work. He's not hard to find. She wrings out the sheet with a practiced twist, water spiraling back into the trough in a neat ribbon. If you like, you can light a candle later, for someone, or for the hunt. The last word hangs between you for a second, before she lets it go and turns back to her laundry. You hand the soap back with quiet thanks and follow the smell of food. It leads you to a long, low building near the center of the village. The doors stand open and warmth spills out, along with a thick scent of grain and wood smoke and 100 small conversations layered over each other. Inside, a big hearth burns at the center of the hall. Flames lick around a blackened pot. Smoke curls up toward a hole in the roof. People sit at simple wooden tables on long benches, their cloaks thrown back, hands wrapped around bowls. You slip onto an empty stretch of bench, and someone immediately slides a bowl towards you, like this is the most natural thing in the world. The porridge inside is thick and pale with a little swirl of honey on top and a few wrinkled berries like tiny jewels. Beside it, a coarse slice of bread waits, still warm from the oven. A jug of watered ale makes its way along the table. You take a sip, grainy, sour, not unpleasant, and pass it on. No one asks what you want to order. There is just what is there, shared by everyone. And it turns out that is enough. Around you, people talk while they eat. There are no phones to divide their attention. Their hands are busy with spoons and bread, their eyes on faces instead of screens. You hear about a cow that gave birth to a strong calf in the night, a cartwheel that broke on the road to the river, a neighbor who needs help mending a roof before the next rain. Someone mentions a peddler rumored to be coming, with pins, needles, salt, and stories. A ripple of quiet excitement follows. Stories are as precious as salt here. Further down the bench, a man mentions the Lord in the manor on the rise beyond the fields. There's talk of the forest and of game, of beaters and hounds, of a hunt planned for tomorrow. The tone is half respectful, half amused, the way people talk about someone who is powerful, who is still, annoyingly, human. You eat slowly, feeling the warmth of the food spread out from your center. You start to see how life here fits together. The shared meals, the quick washing at the trough, the small, frequent mentions of God threaded into ordinary sentences. The way gossip is used less as a weapon and more as a net that keeps everyone from drifting too far. You scrape the last trace of honey from your bowl, just as the air in the hall shifts. The doorway brightens, and a figure stands there, outlined by light. A man in darker, finer cloth, a short cloak trimmed in fur, boots that have seen long rides. Conversation softens around you, not exactly afraid, simply attentive. His gaze moves across the room, taking in faces, tables, bowls. Then his eyes land on you, and linger. The boy at the well was right. In this small, tightly woven world, even the Lord of the Hunt seems to know exactly where to find you.
The man in the doorway doesn't step forward right away. He stands with the soft confidence of someone who knows he doesn't have to hurry. Everyone else will naturally adjust around him. His cloak is a deep green, its fur trim, brushed, and tidy. A small silver clasp near his collar catches the light from the hearth. He carries no weapon in this moment, just a leather glove tucked into his belt, the casual sign of a lord who can summon steel or hounds or riders whenever he chooses. His gaze returns to you in that mild but unmistakable way someone looks at a person they've already decided to speak with. The murmur of the hall dips, not to silence, but to a respectful hush. One of the older men beside you nudges your elbow gently. "Best stand," he murmurs. He doesn't bite, but he is the one who tells the hounds when to. You rise. Your bench creaks. The lord of the manor gives a slight nod, half greeting, half permission. Then he steps inside, boots thudding quietly across the wooden floor. When he speaks, his voice is low, but carried enough that you feel its warmth through your ribs. "So," he says, pausing by your table, "you're awake early today. That's good." His eyes flick to the empty bowl before you and the crumbs you're dusting from your fingers. You'll need a full stomach. You manage a polite greeting, though your voice comes out softer than planned. Something about him. He's not intimidating exactly, but he is undeniably someone the entire village orbits around. He gestures toward the doorway with a gentle sweep of his gloved hand. "Walk with me." The villagers return to their bowls, conversations rising again as you follow him outside into the misty light. The cool air hits your face like a splash of river water, and your breath makes another small white cloud. The Lord walks at a comfortable pace, hands clasped loosely behind his back. "You've been restless," he says, conversationally, as if discussing the weather. "People notice these things. A mind too full, a heart too quick. You walk the lanes at odd hours. You look at the forest as though it's calling to you, but you pretend you don't hear." His eyes narrow, not judgmentally, just curious. "I think it's time you saw it up close." You blink at him. "The forest?" "The hunt," he clarifies, as though the two are inseparable. "We ride at dawn tomorrow. I want you with us." Your stomach dips, not in fear exactly, but in that startled way you react when someone hands you responsibility you didn't ask for. He notices. "Don't look as though I've sentenced you to the gallows," he chuckles. "You'll not be alone. We ride in groups. We watch one another. And the game is plentiful this season. The hounds smell it in the wind." You tell him you've never hunted before. That only makes him laugh again, a warm rumble. No one is born knowing how to string a bow, but you've got hands, you've got eyes, and you've got enough sense not to run straight at a boar. I hope. He leads you down the lane toward a small fenced area near the edge of the village, where tools, carts, and a few sturdy horses wait under a simple wooden shelter. A stable boy is brushing down a chestnut mare, his stroke slow and steady. When he notices the Lord, he straightens immediately and nods. "This one," he says, placing a hand on the mare's neck. "She's even-tempered. You'll learn on her." The boy hands you the brush. Without thinking, you begin to help, moving the brush along the horse's flank. Her coat is warm under your hand, and she shuffles her weight, leaning into the strokes like a sleepy cat. The Lord watches you for a long moment. "See?" he says, quietly. "You think you don't belong, but you move as if you do." You want to tell him the truth, that you woke up in a bed that isn't yours, in a century that shouldn't know you, wearing clothes that never hung in your real closet. But the words are too strange to speak out loud here, in the cool morning air with the scent of hay and horse and wood smoke grounding you. Instead, you just keep brushing the mare, letting the rhythm soothe your thoughts. A pair of hunters wander toward you, carrying bundles of spears and lengths of rope. One is tall and thin, face weathered, eyes sharp. The other is broader, his beard woven with a few copper beads. They nod to the Lord, then look you over with the same friendly scrutiny that farmers give to a new calf. "This the one?" the tall man asks. The Lord nods once. The bearded hunter grins, showing a missing tooth. "Good. We'll teach you not to fall off the horse when it sneezes, or when the hounds startle you, or when a rabbit decides to be brave." They both laugh, but it's not unkind. They hand you a pair of leather gloves, well worn but sturdy. "Keep these," the tall one says. "You'll want them tomorrow." The Lord steps a little closer, lowering his voice so only you hear. "Sunrise. Eat well.
Sleep early, and don't wander the forest today. It listens when it's quiet. You nod because that's all you can do right now. Nod and breathe, and try to wrap your head around the fact that tomorrow you'll be riding into the deep woods with people who seem far too confident about your ability to survive. The Lord turns back toward the manor on the hill, cloak rippling behind him. The hunters return to their tasks. The stable boy hands you a small cloth to wipe your hands, and the mare nudges your shoulder with her soft nose, as if to say, "You'll be fine." You're not so sure, but you brush her mane one more time and feel, just faintly, that maybe, just maybe, you won't embarrass yourself completely.
The day slips by in that slow, steady, medieval way. Chores in the yards, soft talk near the well, goats complaining as though it's their job, children running between doorways like scattered sparks. But as the sun lowers toward the tree line and the shadows lengthen across the beaten earth of the lane, everyone's movements take on a quieter rhythm. Evening in this world has a sort of exhale to it, a collective settling of shoulders. You feel it in the cool breeze that rolls down from the fields, in the way people linger by doorways, in the glow of hearth smoke drifting upward in gentle ribbons. By the time the sky shifts from gold to a mellow violet, you find yourself walking toward the long hall where supper waits. Torches burn in sconces outside, their firelight flickering across the timber beams. A few villagers wave you in with warm nods, as if you've been joining them for meals your entire life. You slip between the benches again, drawn to the comforting scent of stew simmered all afternoon, onions, barley, herbs, and whatever meat was cut and shared that morning. One of the hunters from earlier, the broad one with copper beads braided into his beard, spots you right away and lifts a hand. "Here," he calls, "sit close. You'll want to hear things clearly tonight." You slide onto the bench beside him. He pushes a wooden bowl toward you and ladles in the stew, thick and hearty. You're halfway through a grateful bite when the tall hunter joins you, dropping onto the bench with the grace of someone who spent more time outdoors than in. He sets down a small leather pouch and a bundle of dried herbs. "Rules," he announces, tapping the pouch. "We go over them tonight, so you don't do anything foolish tomorrow. Accidents come from pride and silence. Better to ask questions now than scream later." Comforting. The bearded hunter laughs at your expression and pats your shoulder with a hand that weighs almost as much as the stew pot. "Relax," he says. "We've kept worse riders alive. There was once a lad who tried to spear the wind because he thought it was a boar." "Wasn't the wind," the tall one corrects. "It was a bush." "A very convincing bush," the bearded man insists. Their laughter booms, warm and rowdy, lifting the mood around you. You find yourself smiling despite the nerves nibbling at your stomach. "First rule," the tall hunter continues, leaning in, "stay with the group. If the hounds scatter, don't chase after the loudest one. He's loud because he's stupid." "Second," the bearded one adds, "if the Lord lifts his hand, you stop. Doesn't matter if you're about to grab glory with both hands, you freeze. There's always a reason." "Third," the tall one says, "the forest is older than all of us and twice as stubborn. Respect it. Don't shout unless you have to. Don't break branches unless you must. And don't wander off the beaten paths unless someone tells you to." He gives you a look that's gentle but firm. This is not the place to prove courage. It's the place to stay alive.
You take another spoonful of stew, mostly to buy yourself a moment. It tastes good, savory and warm, the way food tastes when you know the ones cooking it actually pulled the ingredients from the ground or forest that morning. Crackling bread passes from hand to hand. A cup of ale makes its rounds. Someone farther down begins plucking at a lute, coaxing out a tune that slips through the hall like a soft thread. The villagers settle into stories. Not loud ones, not boasting tales, just easy recollections. Someone speaks about a hunt years ago when a stag led everyone in circles for half the day. Someone else mentions the autumn the boars grew restless and tore up half the wheat fields. A woman recalls a fox who stole eggs every night but left wild berries behind as if making payment. The entire hall chuckles at that one. You ask quietly what people fear most in the forest. The hall shifts just a little, not darker, not colder, just more attentive. The hunters exchange a glance. Everything, the tall one says simply, and nothing. The bearded man nods. Fear keeps you awake. Too much fear makes you blind. Another villager speaks up, her voice softer than the others. She says, "It's not the beasts that worry me, it's losing someone. The forest can hold a person the way fog holds sound." A hush settles, not heavy, just thoughtful. You understand suddenly that the hunt isn't only about food or sport. It's a ritual, a responsibility, a way of keeping the rhythm of their year steady and predictable, a way of reminding themselves that they know these woods, that the world hasn't grown too wild for them yet. The stew pot empties, bowls are stacked, the lute drifts into a slower, sleepier melody. Children yawn openly. The hunters begin gathering their things, rope, knives, gloves, and laying them out with practiced ease. The bearded hunter hands you a small slice of cured meat wrapped in cloth. He says, "For dawn. Eat it before you mount. Your legs will thank you." The tall one offers a final piece of advice as he stands. Sleep now. Truly sleep. The forest doesn't wait for tired minds. The hall empties little by little until only the embers in the hearth glow, pulsing softly. You step outside into the cool night. The village has gone quiet, except for a distant owl hooting between branches. Torches burn low, their flames calmer now. The sky is deep and wide, spread with stars as bright as salt on black velvet. You pull your cloak tighter and walk back toward the small house where you woke this morning. And as you settle onto the straw-filled bed once more, you feel both nervous and strangely ready, held by the steady pulse of this place, by the people who somehow treat you as theirs. Tomorrow you will ride into the forest, but tonight you fall asleep with firelight fading behind your eyelids and the soft, confident promise of the hunters echoing in your mind. We'll keep you safe.
You wake before the first bell rings, not because you planned it, but because the cold brushes your face, and the village outside feels like it's holding its breath. For a moment you lie completely still, listening. Wind rustles the thatch. A dog gives one muted woof. Somewhere in the dark, a single ember pops softly in the hearth. You sit up and rub your eyes, the straw mattress whispering under you. Your cloak lies folded where you left it, and beside it,
the slice of cured meat the bearded hunter gave you. You chew it slowly. It's salty, a little tough, but it warms your stomach in that uncomplicated medieval way food here seems to have. You pull on your clothes, tie the laces, and slip into the boots. Then you lift the wooden bar and step outside. The sky is a deep gray blue, the kind of color that barely exists in modern life unless you're up earlier than everyone else. A thin line of gold touches the horizon, but the sun hasn't broken through yet. Mist lies everywhere, draped across the fields, gathered around the village, curling around fences and doorways as if it belongs more here than anywhere else. You walk toward the stable by instinct, feet crunching softly over the frost-laced earth. A few torches burn low, making small islands of orange in the dimness. The hunters are already there. Of course they are. The tall one tightens the girth of his saddle. The bearded one tests the edge of his knife with a thumb, nodding once in approval. The stable boy leads the chestnut mare toward you, her breath steaming in quick rhythmic clouds. "She's ready," he says, handing you the reins. "And she likes you. She didn't try to bite your cloak last night." He offers this as though it's the highest compliment a horse can give. You stroke the mare's neck. Her coat feels warm, almost velvety. The tall hunter joins you, offering a calm nod. "Eat?" he asks. And when you confirm, he adds, "Good. Weak legs make strong mistakes." The bearded hunter laughs at that. "Strong ones make stupid mistakes. We'll see which kind you are soon enough." He slaps your shoulder, not gently, but fondly. The Lord appears next, emerging from the mist like part of it. His cloak is darker today, nearly black, trimmed with fur against the morning cold. A bow hangs over his shoulder, a hunting horn rests at his hip. When he reaches you, he studies your expression with mild amusement. You look awake. That's more than half the battle. You're not sure what the other half is: surviving, not embarrassing yourself, not falling off the horse when it shifts its weight. But you nod anyway. The rest of the party gathers, a handful of villagers acting as beaters, a pair of young men carrying spears, the hunters, a few horses, and 2 lean hounds stretching and yawning with their tongues lolling. They wag their tails when the Lord whistles softly, ready for whatever comes next. "Mount up," he says. Right. The part with the horse. You place your foot in the stirrup, grip the saddle, and pull yourself upward. For a terrifying half-second, you're sure gravity will betray you. But the mare shifts her stance, steadying you, and you settle onto her back with a soft thump. The tall hunter adjusts your cloak so it won't tangle, and the bearded one gives your boot a reassuring tap. Good. Now don't fall. The Lord raises his hand, and the party begins moving as one slow, smooth river of bodies and hooves. The village watches you go. Men leaning on door frames, women with shawls pulled tight, children rubbing sleep from their eyes. A few give small waves. Someone calls out, "Bring us a good story." The path leads through the fields, where dew coats every blade of grass. As the horses walk, the moisture shakes off in silver droplets that sparkle in the first faint hints of sunlight. You smell damp earth, crushed herbs, wool, leather, and the distant sweetness of hay. The mare walks steadily, and each step rocks you gently, as though the world itself is telling you to relax. The fields open wide around you, patchwork squares of soil, some plowed, some still green, all breathing steam into the cold air. Here and there a lone crow perches atop a fence post, observing you like a stern but somewhat bored overseer. Beyond the far end of the fields, the forest rises, a dark, layered wall of trunks and tangled branches, faintly glowing where the sun begins to catch the tops. The closer you ride, the more the forest seems to transform. From far away, it looks like a single shadow, but as you approach, details emerge. Individual trees, moss-covered stones, ivy twisting up bark, pockets of fog glowing faintly like hidden lanterns. The air shifts too. Cooler. Wilder. Filled with smells you can't name, but instinctively recognize as old. The Lord slows his horse to ride beside you. This is the quiet before the hounds sing. The forest breathes differently at dawn. You'll feel it. And you do. The moment you cross beneath the first branches, the world narrows into something more intimate. Sounds change. Bird calls echo richer. Hoof pads soften on leaf mold. A squirrel darts across the path with the same self-importance as someone late to a meeting. The hunters fan out ahead. The Lord raises his hand, signaling everyone to pause. The hounds lift their noses, testing the air. Breath clouds drift around you like ghostly ribbons. The forest seems to hold still. This, he murmurs, is where the hunt begins. You grip the reins a little tighter, not in fear, exactly, but in that startled, electric way of someone realizing they're part of something older and larger than themselves. You are inside the morning now, wrapped in dew and mist and anticipation, and the day feels like it's waiting for your next heartbeat before it decides what happens next.
The forest doesn't so much open to you as it quietly absorbs you, like a deep green breath drawing your small mortal presence inside its lungs. The horses step onto a path so narrow you wouldn't have noticed it without the hunters guiding the way. The ground is soft with decades, centuries of fallen leaves, a thick tapestry of brown and gold that muffles every hoofbeat. Above you, the branches arc into an almost cathedral-like canopy, filtering the new sunlight into slender shards of green-gold light that drift through the mists like slow-moving sparks. You ride near the center of the group, flanked by the tall hunter on your left and the bearded one behind you, as if they formed a protective bracket around their anxious trainee. The hounds move ahead in smooth, silent lines, their heads low, tails twitching in anticipation, sniffing for trails older than your entire modern world. "This path's older than the village," the tall hunter says softly, guiding his horse to stay just ahead of you. Trade route in the early days. Now the forest keeps most of it for itself. You look at the path, barely a path at all, just the faint flattening of earth where countless feet and hooves once passed. Moss climbs the sides of tree trunks in thick, vibrant blankets. Ferns crowd the edges, brushing your boots. Overhead, the leaves whisper, each breeze bending them in soft waves. For a moment, you stop thinking about the hunt completely. All you can do is stare. This place feels ancient, not like a museum exhibit labeled ancient, but like something that grew old long before humans ever named it. You feel tiny, but not unwelcome. The bearded hunter hums behind you, a slow, gravelly tune that seems to blend with the forest sounds instead of interrupting them. "Keep your eyes open," he murmurs. "Forest never shows everything at once. Look for the small things." You do. You see mushrooms clustered like little brown domes at the base of a fallen tree, pale green lichen blooming in delicate patterns across bark, a spider web stretched between two branches, jeweled with dew that turns into tiny prisms when a stray beam of sunlight finds it. Birds hop along thick limbs, cocking their heads at the procession of humans daring to wake the forest before it's finished stretching. Somewhere to your right, a fox darts through the underbrush. Only a flash of russet fur and a flicking tail, but enough to make your heart lift. The tall hunter notices your grin. "Fast little shadow," he whispers, "probably laughing at us." A low whistle from the front signals everyone to slow again. The Lord raises his hand. The entire line of horses halts instantly. The hounds stop short, muscles tense, noses trembling. The forest goes still. Unnaturally still, like a story pausing before its next chapter. The Lord tilts his head, a faint rustle, then a delicate crack. Not close, but not too far either. A deer, maybe. Something light on its feet. You hold your breath without meaning to. But instead of giving chase, the Lord waves the party forward once more. "Too early," he says to no one in particular. "Let the forest wake fully." You ride deeper. The mist thickens in certain pockets, clinging to the air in pale swirls that move slowly as if reluctant to leave. A thin stream cuts across the path, clear and shallow, murmuring softly over stones. The horses drink, the hounds splash, the hunters fill small leather flasks. You dip your fingers into the water, shocked at how cold it is, clean and crisp, carrying the taste of moss and mountain stone. As you continue, the tall hunter begins pointing things out in a quiet, patient rhythm. "Tracks," he says, showing you the faintest depression in the soil, almost invisible until he traces it with a fingertip. "Roe deer, passed early in the night." A few minutes later, "See that broken fern? Boar brushed it." Then, "Hear that tapping? Woodpecker." Means insects in the bark, which means winter's easing early this year. Every detail, every sound resonates with meaning he reads effortlessly. You try to follow along, eyes darting from root to branch, but he just gives you a soft smile. "The forest takes time," he murmurs. "You learn it the way you learn people, slowly and with mistakes." The bearded hunter snorts, "Some more mistakes than others." You roll your eyes at him, which makes him roar with laughter and slap his thigh. "Good. You've got spirit. Forest likes spirit. Just don't let it run off without your wits." You're about to respond when something shifts ahead. A hound stiffens, tail rising. Another joins it. The Lord moves forward, quiet as drifting smoke. You feel your heart thump once, hard, your fingers tightening on the reins. But the tension passes as quickly as it forms. The hounds relax. A small herd of wild goats appears on a rise of stones to the left, blinking calmly down at the group, as if mildly offended that humans dare to intrude into their morning grazing. One goat chews on a leaf with exaggerated slowness, eyes half-lidded, the physical embodiment of "you again?" Even the Lord huffs a soft laugh. "No sportin' goats," he murmurs. The hunters agree. The hounds look vaguely disappointed. The forest continues unfolding ahead of you, each turn revealing something new. A clearing brushed with sunlight like a spilled golden cloth. A fallen tree hollowed by time. A scatter of white flowers opening their petals to the rising day. And for the first time since you mounted the horse, you feel the rhythm of this place settling into your bones. The quiet, the patience, the sense that the forest isn't here to impress or frighten. It simply exists, vast and steady, with its own slow heartbeat. You realize you're breathing more easily. You sit straighter in the saddle. The mare flicks her ears back in approval. "You're doing well," the tall hunter says. "The forest hasn't swallowed you yet." You say that like it's an achievement. "It is," he replies with a faint grin. "Believe me." You ride on, deeper and deeper, the path winding through green shadows, the morning brightening with each passing moment. The stillness begins to hum with a new energy, a subtle quickening beneath the calm, the promise of something ahead. Something that will turn this peaceful ride into the first real test of the hunt.
The first real sign of the chase doesn't come as a dramatic crack or a thunderous roar. It starts as a tiny movement at the very edge of your vision. A flicker, a shift in the underbrush. Something so light you almost dismiss it as a trick of the morning sun. But the hounds don't miss it. Their heads snap in the same direction at once, bodies going taut like bowstrings pulled tight. The Lord, riding at the front, lifts his hand in a swift motion. The entire party freezes in perfect unison, horses stilling mid-step, hunters lifting their chins, you holding your breath without even thinking. The forest holds its breath with you, the way a storyteller pauses before unveiling the turning point. Then it happens again. A rustle, a flash of warm brown fur. The tall hunter leans toward you. His voice is barely more than a vibration in the air. "Deer." And before you can respond, one of the hounds lets out a sharp, eager bark, just one, and the forest erupts. The hounds surge forward in a flowing explosion of muscle and joy, their voices rising into a chorus that echoes between the trees. The hunters kick their horses into motion. The bearded man shouts, "Hold on tight!" and you don't need him to say it twice. The mare beneath you lunges forward, hooves pounding the soft earth, cloak snapping behind you like a startled raven. It's not graceful, not even a little. Your teeth clack together. Your knees bounce like two badly tuned instruments. Branches brush your shoulders, leaves slap your cheeks, and you cling to the reins with the kind of grip usually reserved for grabbing your phone right as it slips from your bed. The deer bursts through the clearing ahead, a young doe, delicate and swift, her legs a blur as she leaps over fallen logs as effortlessly as you might step over a sleeping cat. She barely looks real, more like a ripple of light and movement, a breath of wind with hooves. The hunters shout directions. The Lord blows his horn, its clear note slicing through the chaos and guiding the hounds with practiced precision. The mare follows instinctively, weaving between trees, adjusting her stride in ways that keep you from becoming a human comet. But even with her help, you come dangerously close to disaster. On your left, the ground dips suddenly. You don't see it until you're already halfway there. The mare leaps it like a seasoned athlete. You, however, do not leap anything. You jolt upward, nearly sailing out of the saddle. Your stomach hits your throat. A noise escapes you, something between a gasp, a squeak, and a polite attempt not to scream. The bearded hunter roars with laughter from behind. "Stay with the horse! She knows the forest better than we do!" You cling harder. You try not to picture yourself tumbling into the moss to be trampled by hounds or shamed by goats. Your breath comes fast, your heart pounding loud enough to drown out the hoofbeats for a moment. And just when you think the chaos can't intensify anymore, the doe darts sharply to the right, slipping through a cluster of narrow trees like flowing water. The hounds follow. The tall hunter follows,
The Lord follows. You attempt to follow. The mare tries her best to thread through the gap, but your timing is off, way off, and your left knee slams into a low branch that sends a jolt straight up your spine. Not enough to injure you, but definitely enough to make you reconsider every life choice that brought you to this moment. "Use your legs," the tall hunter calls over his shoulder. "Don't sit stiff, bend with her." Bend? In this chaos? But you try. You loosen your death grip on the reins, shift your hips slightly, and allow your legs to move with the mare's rhythm instead of fighting it. The change is instant, like going from bouncing downstairs in slow motion to gliding down a smooth escalator. Your body fits into the motion, your breath steadies, your hands relax their claw-like curl. The mare snorts approvingly. Up ahead, the doe veers again, disappearing behind a fallen log and reappearing on the far side of a steep incline. For a moment, everything slows. The hounds' voices stretch, echoing through the trees. Leaves drift lazily in the air. Sunlight paints the clearing in stripes of gold. And then the forest floor drops out from under you. The mare takes the slope in a swift descent, hooves sliding slightly before catching steady ground. You lean back instinctively, the tall hunter's earlier lessons banging around your brain in frantic Morse code. Somehow, no one is more surprised than you stay balanced. At the bottom of the slope, everything narrows again. The doe leaps across a shallow stream, the hounds splash through it, sending up arcs of water. You follow, water spraying your boots, your cloak whipping behind you, the cold splash waking every nerve in your legs. Then, without warning, the doe's trail vanishes. Just gone. The hounds slow, confused, circling. The hunters pull up short. The Lord raises his hand, scanning the trees. The only sound is your mare's breathing and the steady drip of water from your cloak. The tall hunter turns in his saddle, his eyes scanning you first, checking, not judging. "You're in one piece," he says with a nod. "Impressive." The bearded one grins. "Didn't even fall once. Shame. I had a whole speech ready." You open your mouth to respond, but the forest interrupts. Again. A sound. A crack. But this time it's deeper. Heavier. Not a deer. Not a fox. The Lord's posture shifts ever so slightly. Alert. Focused. "That," he says quietly, "wasn't part of the plan." A ripple moves through the hunters, subtle but unmistakable. The chase is over, but something else, something larger and far more unpredictable, waits in the trees ahead. And whether you want it or not, you're already riding straight toward it. For a moment, no one speaks. The forest seems to lean closer, listening with you, the mist curling around the trees like breath held between teeth. The hounds stand motionless, ears pointed, noses lifted, bodies stiff with attention. Your mare shifts beneath you, not spooked, but alert, in a way that sends a current of unease up your spine. The Lord turns slightly in his saddle, scanning the tree line with the practiced calm of someone who has survived enough hunts to know when the forest changes its mind. "Stay close," he says, the words barely audible, eyes open, ears sharp. The tall hunter nudges his horse forward, slow and deliberate. The bearded one moves behind you again, forming that familiar protective bracket. You tighten your grip on the reins, trying to swallow the small, dry lump forming in your throat. The forest is different now. Not hostile, just watching. Another crack echoes farther to the left, not delicate like a deer stepping on a twig, heavier, more intentional. The hunters share a quick look, and the bearded man mutters, "Not boar, too slow." "Not wolf either," the tall one adds, "too loud." You wait for someone to say human, but no one does. They simply start moving, guiding their horses down a narrow path that bends like a question mark between the trees. You follow. Of course you follow. At first, the path feels normal, muddy, leaf-covered, framed by tall beech and oak, but after a few minutes, the underbrush thickens, crowding the edges. A low fog clings stubbornly to the ground, curling around hooves. The air grows cooler, carrying the faint scent of moss, wet bark, and something shadowy you can't quite name. The Lord rides ahead, his posture straight, alert and poised. Now and then he raises a hand to slow the group, the gesture smooth and controlled. "This part of the forest is older," the tall hunter murmurs to you. "We don't come here unless we must." "Why?" you whisper. He offers you a small, tight smile. "Paths shift here. The forest holds quiet too deeply. Even the hounds dislike it." That last part is true. The hounds pad forward reluctantly, ears flat, sniffing but not barking. One whines under its breath. Then, somehow, everything changes at once. A sudden cry rings out, not an animal cry, but a human one. High, sharp, frightened. It slices through the trees so fast your heart jerks. The mare dances beneath you. The hounds snap to attention. The bearded hunter curses softly. "Child." The Lord doesn't hesitate. "Move." The entire group surges forward. Branches slap your cloak. Leaves whip past your face. You duck instinctively as the mare pushes into a faster stride, her hooves thudding over roots and stones. The hunters ride like the forest is part of their anatomy, leaning, weaving, twisting. You cling to the mare's rhythm, feeling adrenaline spread hot through your chest. The cry comes again, closer now, clearer. But when you round a cluster of trees, the Lord suddenly raises his hand. The group halts so abruptly, the hounds skid slightly in the leaves. The tall hunter squints. Tracks. You see them too, prints in the soft mud. Small, barefoot, leading deeper into the trees. And beside them, something else. Larger prints, paw-shaped, deep. Wolf. The bearded hunter mutters, "Not good." The Lord dismounts in one smooth motion, kneeling to examine the tracks. His brows knit, not in fear, but in calculation. "One child," he murmurs, "likely wandered off before dawn." He points to the larger prints, and a lone wolf, not a pack. "That's something at least," the tall hunter says. "Still something dangerous," the Lord replies. The hounds grow restless. One growls low, ears pinned back, staring towards a slope ahead. The Lord rises and turns to your group.
We split, he says. I take the hounds down the slope. Tall one, circle north. Bearded, circle west. Then his eyes fall on you. You stay with me. You blink. Me? You ride well enough, he says calmly, and you have fresh eyes. Fresh eyes see what experienced ones overlook. You're not sure if that's a compliment or a polite way of saying you're not too tired to be useful. Regardless, you nod. The group separates. The tall hunter gives you a steadying glance before veering off. The bearded one offers a brief reassuring wink. Then they disappear behind the trees. You follow the Lord down the slope, the mare stepping carefully. The hounds move ahead, silent and focused. The forest grows darker here, as if the branches above have knitted themselves tighter over centuries of storms. When you reach the bottom of the slope, the ground softens into a bed of damp moss. A tiny stream trickles nearby. The prints continue along its edge, smaller footprints jumping from rock to rock, larger paw prints pacing behind. The child was running. The wolf was following. The Lord kneels again, studying the pattern. His jaw tightens. "We're close," he murmurs. Then you hear it, a rustle, a sharp gasp, a small whimper. "Child," the Lord says, and then, gently, "Easy." He steps forward slowly, pushing aside a curtain of ferns. And there, half hidden beneath the fallen tree, is a small figure curled tight, arms over their head. Their thin linen shirt is torn. Their knees are scraped. Their breath comes in panicked hiccups. But there is no wolf. Not here. Not now. The Lord motions for you to stay back as he crouches beside the child. His voice drops to a tone so soft you barely recognize it. "You're safe now," he whispers. "It's all right. We're here." The child peeks up, tear-streaked and trembling. You see fear dissolve slowly into fragile relief. And while the moment is tender, the forest behind you remains too quiet, too still, as if waiting for something else. Because the wolf did not simply disappear, and the forest, in its old and complicated patience, is not done with you yet.
The child clings to the Lord's cloak with the desperate grip of someone who hasn't felt safe for far too long. Tiny fingers clutching wool, tear-streaked face pressed against his shoulder. The Lord lifts the child gently, settling them on his hip with a softness that seems at odds with the horn and bow at his side. You watch as their breathing slows, though their small body remains tense, trembling like a sparrow after a storm. But even as relief washes through you, the back of your neck prickles. The forest feels wrong, too quiet, too still. Not the peaceful hush of dawn, but the breath-held silence of something waiting. The Lord senses it too. You can see it in the way his posture shifts. Not fear, calculation. He sets a steadying hand on your arm. "Stay close," he murmurs, barely above a whisper. "We move together." He guides his horse with the child held securely in one arm. You follow, keeping your mare's steps light and quiet. The hounds creep ahead like shadows with noses to the ground, stiff tails signaling their unease. "Why didn't the wolf stay?" you whisper before you can stop yourself. The Lord gives a small, grim smile. "Wolves aren't bound to stories. They don't wait for dramatic moments. If it fled for a reason. A reason. You swallow. A wolf that flees before hunters means one of two things: fear or strategy. Beside you, the rustle of leaves announces the arrival of the tall hunter. He emerges from the trees with a few scratches and a breathless expression that shifts to relief when he sees the child alive. "Good," he murmurs. "We found your tracks but lost the scent. Any sign of—" The bearded hunter's arrival cuts him off. He bursts from the western side of the slope, panting lightly, face flushed. Tracks curl south, then cut sharp east. Not natural. Not natural how? Asks the tall hunter. The bearded man shrugs, beard beads clicking softly. Wolf changed direction 3 times in less than 100 paces. Wind isn't shifting fast enough to explain it. Smelled something, maybe. Heard something. The Lord nods, weighing this. The child peeks at the hunters, eyes glassy but more alert now, small fingers knotting into the Lord's cloak. What frightened it? You ask before you can think of whether you actually want the answer. The Lord looks toward the deeper woods, the part with older trees, thicker roots, places where sunlight rarely touches the ground. Something bigger than the wolf, he says softly, but not a threat to us. Probably. Lovely, very reassuring. The bearded hunter claps you on the shoulder. Still breathing, aren't you? Good sign. The child's voice interrupts, barely audible. I heard something. Everyone stills. The Lord kneels slightly to meet the child's gaze. What did you hear? A trembling breath. A voice. Your stomach drops. The forest watches, listens, holds its secrets in its bark and moss. A voice, the tall hunter repeats, gentle but steady. A person's voice? The child shakes their head. No, not a person. Like the trees talking. The hunters exchange wary glances. The forest is old enough that stories about tree spirits and whispering roots aren't dismissed outright. But the Lord does not indulge superstition. Instead, he touches the child's hair lightly. Not a spirit, he says, just wind and fear mixing together. The forest can sound strange when you're alone. The child nods uncertainly. The explanation comforts them even if it doesn't comfort you. The Lord turns to the hunters. We head back, slowly. Keep wide formation until we reach the ridge. Something drove the wolf off, and I'd rather not find out what. He looks at you. Stay at my side. You have the clearest view of what is behind us. You try not to think too hard about why that particular task fell to you. The group forms up again, this time in a more protective shape. Lord in the center with the child, hunters flanking, you just behind. The hounds remain uncharacteristically quiet, casting furtive looks over their shoulders. As you move, the forest seems to loosen its hold. The mist begins to thin, the light filtering through the trees brightens, the air warms by a tiny degree. Slowly, you sense the forest exhale, releasing you from whatever tension held it a few minutes before. But the quiet is still not normal quiet. You can feel it in the way birds only half return to their songs, each note cautious, in the way the wind brushes past your ear but doesn't move the branches above, in the way the trees seem to stand slightly too still. Then, just as your nerves begin to settle, you hear it. Not a growl, not a howl, but a low, resonant hum that ripples through the ground like distant thunder. The mare freezes. The hounds whine. The hunters straighten. The Lord tightens the grip on the child, shifting closer to his saddlebow. Keep moving, he says firmly. Do not stop unless I tell you. The hum fades, silence floods in, and then nothing. You ride the next few minutes with your heartbeat loud in your ears, trying not to look back at the shadows between the trees, certain you saw something shift there, something large, something with intent, something trying to decide whether you were worth following. But gradually, the forest's colors lighten, the path broadens, the ancient roots give way to more familiar undergrowth, the air brightens with birdsong. And then, just as suddenly as fear had found you, it slips away. The child lets out a small sigh. The mare relaxes beneath you. The hunters ease their grips on their reins. The tall hunter gives you a sidewise smile. Forrest tested you, and look at that. You're still here. Barely, you mutter. The bearded hunter laughs. Barely counts. Ahead, sunlight glitters through the last veil of trees. You are almost out of the deep woods, almost back to the fields, almost somewhere safe. But as you emerge into the open air, the Lord glances back over his shoulder, once, briefly, almost involuntarily. And in that moment, you know he felt it too. Whatever moved in the forest had watched you leave, and whatever it was not done watching.
The moment your group breaks fully out of the forest's shadow, the world feels different. Lighter, warmer, safer by degrees you didn't appreciate until now. Sunlight pours across the open fields in broad, golden strokes, warming your face and shoulders. The tall grass sways gently in the breeze, each blade a soft green brushstroke painted by the morning wind. Birds chatter again. Somewhere far in the distance, a farm dog barks. If you didn't know better, you'd think the forest episode had been a strange dream. But the hunter's expressions are still sharper than usual, their eyes flicking to the tree line behind you now and then. The child clings to the Lord's cloak, head nestled against his shoulder, small fingers twisted in the fur trim. The Lord lifts his chin toward the ridge where the others wait. "We regroup," he says to you quietly, still scanning the tree line as though expecting the shadows to follow. After that, we return the child home. The two hunters riding beside you nod silently, their focus on the path ahead. The hounds trot close to the horse's legs, not bounding ahead as before, but keeping near the center of the party with occasional glances toward the trees. As you ride up the gentle slope, the bearded hunter exhales softly. "Never liked that part of the forest. Too old. Too many places to hide and too few to see." The bearded man grunts. "And too many stories." The Lord gives him a sharp look. "Not now." The bearded hunter dips his head. "Sorry, just saying." You feel compelled to ask, "What stories?" He gives you a sidelong glance, then shrugs one heavy shoulder. "Old things, roots that move, stones that listen. A beast big enough to knock down a full-grown stag without eating it." "Folk tales," the tall hunter cuts in quickly. "Nothing more." But he avoids your gaze. You reach the top of the ridge where the other hunting party waits, concern etched into their faces. When they see the child, relief floods the group. A woman rushes forward, likely the child's mother. The moment the Lord lowers the child into her arms, she wraps them tightly, burying her face in their hair. The other villagers murmur blessings. Someone gives thanks to the saints. Someone else touches the child's forehead gently, checking for fever or fear. The Lord waits until the family steps aside before turning to his hunters. A wolf was tracking the child, but something drove it off. Immediate silence.
It's the tall hunter who dares to speak. You think it was, "Doesn't matter," the Lord cuts in. "Whatever spooked it is not our concern unless it comes closer to the village." The hunters nod, but the tension remains. You can feel it like static in the air, buzzing faintly around the edges of everyone's movements. Finally, the Lord steps toward you. His expression softens, the lines around his eyes easing. "You handled yourself well," he says. "More than I expected from a first-time rider." "I almost fell 3 times." "And you didn't," the bearded hunter interjects cheerfully, which is the important part. The tall hunter adds, "And you saw the tracks quickly. That mattered." You're not sure if they're exaggerating to make you feel better, but their tone is sincere enough that warmth spreads through your chest, relieving the tight knot that had formed earlier. The Lord continues, "We'll return the child now. Afterward, we'll decide whether the hunt continues or if we call it for the day." But before anyone can mount up again, a shout echoes across the ridge. It's the sharp, panicked kind of shout that cuts through every thought like a blade. The group turns. A young man from the village runs toward you, breathless, stumbling over the path. "My lord," he gasps, "tracks! Near the sheepfold! Large ones! Fresh!" The hunters exchange uneasy looks. The tall one mutters, "Not good." The bearded one says nothing, his jaw set hard. The Lord straightens, eyes stealing. "Show us." He lifts the child into their mother's arms with a calm, steady motion, murmuring something reassuring before turning back to the group. "Stay close," he instructs, louder now. "We go together." You ride with them, the wind cool against your cheeks as the party heads toward the village. The fields roll gently beneath your horse, but your heart beats with a sharper rhythm now, anticipation mixed with a whisper of fear. When you near the sheepfold, the smell hits first, sharp, musky, earthy. Not rot, not blood, something wild, powerful, and unfamiliar. The hounds whine, hackles raised. And there, pressed deep into the mud, are the tracks. Not wolf. Too large. Much too large. Each print is wide, heavy, clawed. The hunters kneel around them, their faces tightening. "This is," the tall hunter starts. "Impossible," the bearded one finishes. The Lord crouches, fingers brushing the edge of a print. His brows draw together in a frown you haven't seen before, a frown touched with genuine uncertainty. Then quietly, he stands. "We return to the manor," he says, "and we prepare." You swallow hard. What for? The Lord looks toward the forest, the deep part, the part where the mist never quite left, where the trees stood too still and the air hummed like something old had woken. For whatever stepped out of the woods, and whatever else might follow. Your skin prickles, not because of fear exactly, but because you realize the hunt is no longer about deer or wolves. Now you're part of something older, something watching, something moving. And the village needs every pair of hands, including yours.
No one speaks as you ride back toward the manor, not because silence is required, but because every person in the hunting party is too busy thinking. Even the hounds are muted, their usual eager prancing replaced with a stiff, vigilant walk. The air grows heavier with each step,
as if the sky itself understands the gravity of whatever those tracks belong to. You expected panic, shouting, urgency, but the Manor's people react in a way that surprises you, with quiet efficiency. As you approach the wooden gates, villagers hurry to open them. The hunters dismount without being told. Someone brings the Lord's horse fresh water. Children are ushered inside longhouses. Windows shutter. The smith's hammer rings louder than usual, echoing over the village like a heartbeat picking up speed. The Lord swings down from his horse and turns immediately to his hunters. "Spread word to the east and west fields," he instructs. "No one walks alone. Bring the livestock in. Double-check the fences." The tall hunter and bearded one nod and disappear instantly, moving with quick, practiced steps. You slide down from your mare more clumsily than gracefully. The stable boy catches the reins and gives you a small, worried smile. "She'll be safe with me," he says softly, sensing the tension. Inside the manor's courtyard, the Lord gestures for you to follow him. He walks with purpose, but not haste, leading you beneath an archway toward a smaller meeting hall. The moment you step inside, warmth wraps around you. Wood smoke, wool, the comforting scent of bread baking somewhere nearby. But the room feels different now. Focused, intent. The Lord stands by a long table covered in parchment maps, simple, hand-drawn layouts of the village, fields, and forest. His fingers hover over the inked lines of the deep woods, tracing paths like veins. He says, "Sit." You do. He studies you for a long moment, eyes sharp but not unkind. He says quietly, "You saw it too. Something moved behind us in that forest." You nod. There's no point in denying it. Even if you didn't see a shape, you felt its weight. The Lord exhales, leaning his hands on the table. "Wolves don't flee unless they're outnumbered or outmatched. That one was alone, healthy, and tracking prey. Something interrupted it." You swallow. "What do you think it was?" He offers a humorless smile. "In my youth, I would have said a bear. In my older, wiser years, I say nothing until I know more." Before you can respond, the hunters return. Their boots echo on the wooden floor. The bearded hunter shuts the door behind him, and the tall hunter spreads fresh sheets of parchment on the table. "More tracks," he reports. "Some near the sheepfold, some farther north." The Lord frowns. "All the same size?" The tall man hesitates. "Most, but—" He gestures to the parchment. "The tracks traced onto the page look almost identical to the ones you saw. Large, wide, clawed. But next to them is a separate sketch. Smaller, but still far too large to be a wolf." The bearded hunter crosses his arms. "Two, then." "Or one that doesn't walk straight," the tall one mutters. The Lord shakes his head. "No, two." He glances at the hunters, "and likely more." Your heart gives a small, unwelcome lurch. How dangerous are they?" The tall hunter leans against the table. "If they keep to the forest, not dangerous at all. The forest belongs to the old things." "And if they come out?" you ask. He gives you a steady look. "Then we keep the village safe, as we always have." His confidence steadies you a little, but only a little. A knock interrupts the conversation. A woman enters with a tray of warm bread, cheese, and a jug of watered ale. She sets them on the table with gentle hands, her eyes scanning the men and then you.
Eat, she urges softly. A hungry mind sees monsters where there are shadows. The Lord nods in thanks. You realize suddenly how long it's been since you last ate anything substantial. You tear into the bread, crusty, warm, comforting. The cheese is soft and tangy. The ale is mild, but grounding. As you eat, the relief spreads through your body like a slow, warm tide. The hunters relax slightly too, taking bites between low, murmured discussions. The bearded hunter breaks the quiet with a booming laugh. Do you remember the time the villagers thought a giant beast had been prowling the fields? Turns out to be Bronze Cow dragging a broken bucket on her leg. The tall hunter snorts. She shook the fences for days. The Lord even smiles. Brave cow. The tension lifts a little, just enough for you to breathe normally again. After the food is gone, the Lord rolls up the parchment maps. We'll patrol at dusk, a full sweep of the forest edge. If the tracks move closer, we'll be ready. The bearded hunter thumps the table, and if they don't, we'll clear our heads chasing imaginary shadows. The tall one nods. Either way, we keep watch. You think the meeting is over when the Lord turns to you once more. He says quietly, "Walk with me." Outside, the courtyard glows with late afternoon sunlight. Children play again, carefully, staying within earshot of the adults. Chickens peck at the ground. Someone sings a soft tune near the well. Life resumes, but the undertone of caution remains. The Lord stops near the fence overlooking the fields. He says, "You should know that you did more today than simply keep your seat on a horse. You helped find a child. You stayed calm. You listened. You blink because no one in your actual life praises you for listening." The Lord continues, "Fear is natural. Cowardice is a choice. You showed no cowardice today." Warmth fills your chest, unexpected, almost disorienting. Then he adds, "So tonight, you stand with us, at the watch." You stare. "Me?" He says firmly, "You. The forest has seen you. Best you see it back." Nothing in the medieval travel brochure mentioned night watch duty, but here you are. And somehow, you don't walk away. As the sun dips toward the horizon, the truth settles in your bones. The forest is changing. Something old is moving, and whether by chance or fate, you are now woven into this place's story. The only question left is what happens next.
Evening settles over the manor like a warm wool cloak, slow and steady, carrying with it the soft smells of cooking hearths, the distant laughter of villagers finishing their day, and the faint metallic ring of the blacksmith's final taps. The sky fades from gold to rose to a dusky violet that pools in the hollows of the fields. Torches are lit one by one along the wooden fences, their flames flickering in little halos of orange that make the air look almost liquid. You stand near the manor wall, cloak drawn tight, watching as the hunters gather their gear for the night watch. The tall one tightens the straps on a quiver. The bearded one tests a spear's balance with a few casual swings that look anything but casual. The Lord moves between them, checking knots, adjusting torches, murmuring quiet instructions. But despite the tension of earlier, the atmosphere now is calmer, grounded. The danger hasn't evaporated, but the fear gripping your chest earlier has softened into something steadier, like the quiet hum of readiness.
The Lord approaches you with an oil lamp in his hand. Here, he says, placing it gently into your palm. Not to see far, just to see close. You lift it slightly. The flame dances behind the tiny glass window, golden and steady. Somehow, its warmth reaches your fingers before the metal even heats. "Where do you want me?" you ask. He nods toward the edge of the courtyard, where the stone wall gives way to a low fence overlooking the western fields. "With us, for now. Later, you'll walk the southern ridge with the tall hunter, see the lines of the land in the dark." Walk the ridge, in the dark, alone except for a man who considers running from a wolf a fine morning stretch? Great. Your comfort zone has officially been catapulted into orbit. The bearded hunter approaches, holding a wooden bowl. "Eat," he rumbles. "Long night. Cold one." You take the bowl. In it, roasted meat, root vegetables, thick gravy rich with herbs. It smells like comfort and warmth and everything good. You sit beside him on a crate while you eat, watching the last of the daylight slip behind the distant hills. He nudges you with an elbow that weighs approximately as much as a bear cub. "You did well today," he rumbles. You snort softly. "I nearly fell off the horse at least 5 times. "Exactly," he says, proudly. "And yet you did not." You laugh despite yourself. He beams as though he earned the laugh, which, in a way, he did. When you finish eating, the tall hunter joins you, leaning his long frame against the fence. "Night watch isn't as wild as people think," he murmurs, gaze drifting across the darkening fields. "Mostly quiet, sometimes too quiet, but quiet can be a truth, not a threat." You're not sure whether that's comforting or ominous. The Lord raises a hand then, signaling everyone to gather. A handful of villagers join as well, strong men and women with lanterns and stout walking sticks. The group stands in a loose circle, shadows stretching long across the courtyard. The Lord's voice is calm. "We watch because the forest has shifted. We watch because the tracks were large. But we do not let fear lead us." The villagers nod. One woman murmurs, "We've seen strange things before." The Lord inclines his head. "And we'll see them again, but not tonight." Something warm settles in your chest. Confidence. Or maybe borrowed confidence. Either way, it steadies your hands. The watch begins after full darkness falls, when the moon rises in a pale arc and the grass glows faintly silver. You walk with the tall hunter along the southern ridge. The lamp's flame sways gently as you move, casting slow arcs of golden light on the ground. The ridge overlooks rolling fields where sheep sleep in clusters, their wool glowing softly under the moon. Crickets sing, a night bird calls, wind whispers through the hedges. Nothing strange, just quiet life breathing. The tall hunter taps your wrist lightly. Hear that? You listen. At first you hear nothing new. Then, a faint, distant clatter, like a stone rolling down a slope. Then silence. "Boar?" you whisper. He shakes his head. Too heavy. "Wolf?" Too deliberate. Your spine prickles. But instead of drawing a weapon, he kneels and places a palm on the ground. Earth carries sound. If something large moves, you'll feel it here before you see it.
But I feel nothing, which means whatever we heard is moving away from us, not towards us. Your breath loosens. Most of the night passes that way. Slow, steady walking, soft conversation, shared silences. When you return to the manor courtyard near midnight, the bearded hunter greets you with a steaming cup of spiced milk. To keep sleep from stealing your bones, or something like that. My grandmother used to say it. The drink warms you instantly, sliding through your chest like liquid comfort. The villagers rotate shifts with the hunters. The Lord walks the perimeter several times, speaking quietly with those on guard. The atmosphere feels strange but not frightening, as if the entire village had huddled closer, leaning into one another against the unknown. As the night deepens, musicians gather near the manor fire pit, just a few of them, and begin playing soft melodies on lute and flute. The notes drift gently across the courtyard, mingling with the crackle of the fire. You find a seat on a low stone wall, letting the warmth seep into your legs. The music lifts something inside you, not excitement, not fear, but a kind of glowing, calm gratitude. A woman brings out loaves of warm bread. A man pours mugs of mulled cider. Children who should be asleep huddle in blankets near their parents, drifting between wakefulness and dreams. Life continues, softened, cautious, but unbroken. The village breathes together, and you breathe with them. At some point, the Lord sits beside you, hands wrapped around a mug. He doesn't speak for a long time. Then he says, "Danger reminds us what we value. Nights like this matter more than hunts." You nod. It feels peaceful, even with everything going on. He smiles faintly. Peace is not the absence of threat. It is the presence of one another. The words settle deep, warm and heavy in your chest. Later, long after the music fades and your lamp burns low, the Lord dismisses the final watch. "Rest," he says. "Tomorrow we decide our next steps. For now, let the village sleep." You make your way back to the small house where this day began. The straw mattress rustles beneath you as you lie down, cloak wrapped around your shoulders. And while you drift toward sleep, the village outside breathes a tired but steady sigh, safe for now, held by firelight, music, and the quiet strength of people who care for one another.
The night passes without incident. No growls from the tree line, no heavy footfalls in the brush, no mysterious hum vibrating through the ground. Just a steady, quiet darkness that feels more like a blanket than a threat. When dawn finally stretches pale gold fingers over the village rooftops, you wake with a deep sense of relief. Relief and something softer, like gratitude for a peace you didn't fully expect to return. You rise slowly, joints a little stiff, but your heart steady. Outside, the chill morning air brushes your cheeks as you step out into the lane. Smoke curls from chimneys, roosters complain about everything, and early risers begin their morning tasks, hauling water, feeding animals, sweeping doorsteps. Nothing in their movements suggests fear. Whatever frightened the wolf seems to have retreated back into whatever shadow it came from. The Lord finds you near the well, where villagers gather for the first draw of the morning. His cloak looks less imposing in daylight, his expression gentler. "Sleep well?" he asks, his voice low but warm. You smile. Eventually. That's all anyone can ask after a day like yesterday. He gestures for you to walk with him. Come, let's see the fields. You follow him past the manor and out onto the gentle rise where the villagers' sheep graze. Sunlight glints on dew-soaked grass, making the earth shimmer like it's dusted with tiny stars. The sheep munch peacefully, unbothered, no signs of attack or disturbance. A pair of shepherd boys wave to you lazily. The Lord scans the horizon. No new tracks, he says. Whatever it was, it's gone. Likely returned deeper into the old woods. You breathe out slowly. So, we're safe. Safe enough, he answers. The forest is never predictable, but last night's watch tells me it's not pressing closer. He looks at you fully then, eyes bright in the morning light. And you handled yourself well. There's a steadiness in you that wasn't there yesterday. You laugh a little. I think I just didn't have the energy left to panic. That counts, he says with a grin. As you walk back toward the village, you notice how people greet you differently now, more openly, with nods of inclusion, with glances full of unspoken understanding. You're not the outsider who stumbled through strange dreams anymore. You're someone who stood watch with them, someone who helped bring a lost child home. Near the well, that same child spots you and breaks into a shy smile. Their mother places a hand on their shoulder and murmurs something soft. The child gathers their courage and approaches. Thank you, they whisper, offering you a small, cloth-wrapped bundle. You accept it carefully. Inside is a piece of sweetbread, still warm, glazed with honey. You look up, touched. The child beams and then scampers back to their mother. The tall hunter appears next carrying a bundle of herbs. For bruises, he says, handing it to you. Not that you fell, but you rode like someone who's going to feel muscles they didn't know existed. You grin and take the bundle. Thanks. Then the bearded hunter stomps over holding something behind his back. Close your eyes, he orders. You hesitate. Just do it, he insists. You oblige. Something light drops into your hands. You open your eyes. It's a small carved figure of a horse, roughly shaped but charming. Clearly made from a scrap of wood and a lot of enthusiasm. For not dying, he announces proudly. A fine achievement for a first hunt. You laugh so hard your ribs hurt. The morning becomes a blur of gentle tasks and warm conversations. Bread baking, water fetching, field checking. Even the forest edge looks less menacing in the full light of day, its shadows stretched thin and harmless. By midday, the entire village gathers near the manor for a simple feast, not to celebrate victory over some great beast, but to celebrate safety, community, and the relief of shared vigilance. Long tables fill with roasted vegetables, honeyed bread, salted meat, and jugs of cool well water and mild ale. The Lord raises a cup. To the village, he says, to watchful eyes, steady hands, and the quiet courage that keeps us whole. People cheer softly. This is not a rowdy celebration, but a warm, grateful one. Someone begins playing a lute. Children dance in small drifting circles. The hunters lean against a fence, exchanging jests. The woman who brought food to the meeting hall brings you a second piece of bread without asking. You eat, drink, and let your body settle into the rhythm of the day, feeling yourself woven more firmly into the threads of this small world. As the sun starts sinking toward the horizon again, turning the sky into a canvas of gold and pink, you wander toward the low hill overlooking the village. The Lord joins you, hands clasped behind him.
You had a long 2 days, he says. That's one way to describe it. He chuckles. You came to us suddenly, quietly, but you've walked among us well. His gaze softens. If tomorrow you wake in your own world again, I hope you'll remember this place kindly. You nod, feeling a tug in your chest, strange and bittersweet. I will. Good, he murmurs. Then this village will remember you too. As he walks away, leaving you on the hill with the sky glowing warmly above you, you feel something settled peacefully inside you, a kind of deep, grounding calm. Whatever brought you here, whatever waits for you when you lay your head down tonight, one truth wraps around you like a soft cloak. You belonged here, even if briefly, and they were grateful for you. You return to the straw-filled bed with quiet steps, cloak trailing softly behind you, and lie down, eyes drifting closed to the distant lull of village voices and gentle evening wind.
Let the edges of the village fade into dusk as your breathing softens, as your shoulders loosen, as the whole world tilts gently toward rest. The glow of torchlight dims into a distant ember, barely flickering. The sounds of the day melt into the hush of night, rustling grass, a low hum of crickets, a final clatter from the manor kitchen before silence settles like a gentle blanket. You feel the cool weave of the linen beneath you, the soft weight of the wool cloak draped over your legs. Above, the thatched roof blurs into a warm shadow. For a moment, you imagine the forest breathing far beyond the fields, but its presence is no longer sharp or watchful, only a distant murmur, softened and calm. Your breath deepens, your heartbeat steadies. Everything around you slows to a kind, rhythmic sway. Picture the sky above the village, scattered with stars like tiny lanterns hung by patient hands. A faint breeze slips through the cracks in the wooden door, carrying the scent of fresh earth and quiet fires. It brushes your cheek like a lullaby. And now, let go of the path behind you. Let go of the hunt. Let go of the forest shadows. Let go of the noise of any real-world worry that found its way into your thoughts. There is only softness now, only warmth, only stillness. Sink deeper into the straw mattress. Feel your limbs grow heavier, your breath slower, your mind gentler at the edges. Imagine the entire village sleeping alongside you, safe, quiet, wrapped in the same soft night. And as you drift, remember, you are welcome in every place you rest. You are safe in every breath you take, and you are already halfway to dreaming. End of story. Sweet dreams.